Hey everybody, Nick here, and today around here somewhere I've got a review of the Hogue X5. Here we go, of the Hogue X5 pocket knife. Here, let's help this out here. There we go. Hey, Hogue X5 pocket knife. Now we can see it. I'm sorry, couldn't resist. First off, I want to actually thank my buddy John, JAF Blades EDC, over on the Instagram for sending this little guy along. Let's also do a size comparison real quick here. First off is the Ontario Rat number 1. And the Ontario Rat number 2. So you can see that this is not a small knife. This is the 3.5-inch blade variant of the X5. There were other variants as well. There's the drop point for whatever it's worth. Let's see here. Let's check out the Spyderco PM2 here. The ZT452CF, which is another knife that is a little bit murdery. Doesn't quite have the same stealth bomber thing going on. And, oh, what the heck, Chris Reeve Knives Large Shabazz 21. So, there you go. That's the size of this little guy. Two other things I want to mention about this. First off, this is made by Hogue. Well, I think they're just Hogue. But they're best known, I believe, for making grips in the gun community. And it's kind of been a fact of life for a long time that any knife that's made by a gun company is a piece of crap. With a couple of exceptions, Benchmade's H&K collaborations were fine for Benchmade's, but this is actually kind of pushing the limits of that. Hogue being a gun company hasn't hurt this guy. The other thing is that there is no disassembly video for this knife, and that's because well, not only is this kind of a weird knife with an assisted button lock, but it's also DLC'd screws and red Loctite in the middle there. So I didn't want to risk using a soldering gun on this little guy here to reduce the Loctite, as well as potentially scratching up the hardware. So that's why there's no disassembly. Sorry about that. But nonetheless, interesting knife, and I'm looking forward to giving it its full treatment. The good, the great, the bad, and the ugly, and I'll just keep it on this so I can still find it. Nicely camouflaged. All right, let's move on. So on the good side, first off, there are actually a couple of different options in terms of your blade size and shape for this guy. This, I believe, is the drop point version, but they've also got a modified Warncliffe, which is some weird compound grindy thing. Neat looking, but definitely strange. You've also got a 3.5 or a 4-inch blade, and you've also got yourself a tan version, which frankly would have been a little nicer on this review surface, but hey, this works just fine. So it's always nice to have some options here. Next thing is that the look on this guy is very stealth bombery. I mean, seriously, you put this guy away and it looks, I don't even know what the heck this thing looks like, but it looks like something the military would pay a lot of money for and that the Soviets would try and steal. So that's kind of a nice thing. Next thing I'll highlight is it does have a couple of nice details. For instance, it's got G10 inlays here, right? At least I believe this to be G10. This little portion here is separate from the aluminum that's in the handle, and really does give you a little bit of extra grip here, which is a nice thing. You've also got some other details. For instance, you've got this little insert here, which allows you to swap the clip to the other side without leaving a big hole on this side, which is a beautiful thing, absolutely. You also have the flow-through design here in the back, which is kind of interesting. Makes the knife look, honestly, a little bit like a harmonica, although I tried playing it, and unfortunately the tone is just not very good. So, there you go. That's interesting. And so, like I said, there were some nice little details on this guy. The blade is interesting in and of itself. It's got this nice little harpoon on there, which I actually do think is an interesting little design choice, and the symmetry of Dink and Dink over here is a beautiful thing. Always a sucker for some symmetry there. And it also does have quite the swedge on it, which is actually unpleasant in the pocket, and we'll come back to that later on, but it comes to a very sharp angle, if you can actually see that in the vast expanse of blackness that is this knife. So, there you go. The blade, as you can probably notice, is coated, and the steel is CPM 154, which is a well, it's basically a powder metallurgy version of your 154 CM, which is just A-okay. I'll also highlight that even though this blade looks like it's kind of overbuilt and whatnot, it's actually not very thick behind the edge, which makes this knife A-okay for slicing things open, which is nice. Very often these sorts of extremely tactical blades have extremely thick grinds, and this guy is actually doing pretty okay in that way, so I'm a big fan of that. A-okay. Way to go there, Hogue. Next thing, ergonomically speaking, there is one nice thing, and that's this little, oh, that was foreshadowing a little, wasn't it? There's this little thumb area where your thumb can land and rest and have a good old time. This is something you see on like the Hinder or Eclipse model, but it's good to see it here. It really does make your thumb rest very naturally in the hand, unlike a lot of other knives, and I'm not picking on the Wii here. It's just the one that's closest at hand, where your thumb is kind of up at a weird angle. Having that drop down is a beautiful thing, absolutely. Next thing, the price on this guy is $200. That's a fair chunk of change, absolutely, but the thing is, for what you're getting here, it doesn't seem particularly out of control. You're getting a very nice steel. CPM 154 is absolutely good to go. You're getting something that's kind of unique. You get a button lock here, you get a flipper, you get an assist on there, which is, okay, whatever. But you're getting relatively solid metal construction with the rest of it, and, you're getting some very, very nice fit and finish. So I'm pretty okay with the price on this guy. No real complaints there. It's a good price. Nice, competitive. No argues there. Next thing, the locking mechanism here is interesting. It's a button lock, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But one thing that is kind of neat, and one issue with button locks, is that they can very often, if you're bearing down on the knife, it's easy to accidentally disengage that, and then next thing you know, you're unlocked. So Hogue has done a smart thing of including a little safety on here. So you push this guy forward, and then you can't actually unlock the button, which is kind of a nice thing. It allows you to use this guy with any grip you'd like, even though it is a button lock. So that's a nice little detail. And then finally, the knife on the whole is very, very nicely made. I mean, the fit and finish is overall pretty damn good. The milling is nice. Everything seems to go together. The blade is scented, if you can tell from the vast expanse of blackness there. And most impressive to me is the edge. Look at the edge on this. This is a very, very, very high-quality edge. I emailed my buddy who sent this to me, and I said, that can't be the factory edge. And he said, indeed, it can be. That's really nice. They really took some time to do that, and it appeals at a very real level. That's a level of fit and finish that you don't often see in a $200 production knife, and so I got to applaud that. And so that is a beautiful thing. This knife is well made. So that's the good on this guy. It's well made. It's got the nice locking mechanism on the button lock, which is cool. The price is actually pretty competitive. I got no real issue with the price there. You've got some very nice details, the flow-through design, the thing on the other side here to fill in the blade is very nice. You've got the ergonomic thumb drop there. The harpoon is fun. The G10 inlays are nice. It looks like a freaking stealth bomber, which is nice. And you got a couple of different options if the stealth bomber look isn't quite up your alley. Let's talk about what's great here. To me, what's great here is that this is a very, very unique knife. I took this guy out of the package and it was like, wait a second. This is weird, and I love that. As a reviewer, so much of my life is spent looking at, and I'm not complaining here, but so much of my life is spent looking at titanium frame locks, for instance, where the knives are, different in subtle ways, and they definitely have their pros and their cons, but this is just like, whoa, what the heck were these guys doing? And it's cool. They're using a button lock, which is already kind of unusual right now in the knife world, and they've given it a nice assisted action. So you've got this really interesting action, which is assisted, but because of the button lock, you can use centripetal force to kind of pop it back in there, and then just give it a little pinch, and it's back home. This is a very, very unique action, at least in my personal estimation, and it's a very nice one. And so I kind of like that they've done something very weird here. They've done a button-locked flipper with the assist, and they've done it in a way that's pretty compelling. So I love the uniqueness of this, the difference of this knife. This is one of the first knives in a little while to cross my table that's just like, whoa. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, and that's always a joy, at least for me personally as a reviewer. We'll talk about some of the other benefits. Well, sorry, not benefits, but compromises made to get there now, but still, I gotta give him credit for being weird. Weird is good. So on the bad side, first off, this guy has some lock stick. And actually, that sounds a little weird to say about a button lock, but it's true. And I should show off the button lock slightly. Put a little light on the subject. You can see here that on the inside, there's this little area. When I press this button, he depresses this plunger, which gets out of the way of the blade. And that allows, when this is fully retracted into the liner, it allows the blade to kind of stop falling shut again. And when I lock the blade, which I will do right now, you can see that the button pops the rest of the way out and prevents the blade from going in that way. And in fact, you can also see that when I shift this over, when I hit the lock, it just prevents the button from getting pressed out. Whatever. But the thing is, that process does have a little bit of stickiness to it. So if I press this, you can hear it. Oh yeah, that's lock stick. It's not a terrible thing, and on a button lock it almost feels a little secure, but it is definitely a thing, so you got to keep that in mind. Next thing, speaking of the loud little clicks there, this is a very loud knife. You pop it open, it's loud. And you close it again, and it's loud again. Nice resonance there, but this is not going to be a subtle, quiet knife. You can put it away more quietly if you hold down the button lock on it, but even still, it's going to, as the detent slips by, I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of that, and even the assist is loud. So this is, despite looking like a stealth bomber, not really sneaking up on anybody. Next thing is that the flipper tab on this thing is freaking huge. I mean, this is a pocket pecker par excellence. Going to be pecking on whatever's in your pocket all day long. This thing's hung like a freaking horse. And the shape of it is also not a great thing either. On a lot of knives, the flipper tab kind of has a bit like a flatness to it. But this guy has a little bit of a hook to it. And given that this really wants a kind of a light switchy style, this kind of gesture, that extra hook just doesn't feel great. I don't love the flipper tab on this in practical use. So there you go. Next thing is that this knife shows damage pretty effectively. It's aluminum already, but it's painted black aluminum. So any ding that this guy gets, like this guy was on the knife, is, well, it's a little bit brutal. Not a big fan of that. And so this will be a little bit more vulnerable, or at least it is going to look. It's going to show those ugly little hits a lot more readily, and that's not so stellar. Next issue with this knife is that it is actually pretty big for the size of the blade that you get. You're getting roughly 3.5 inches of blade here, along the lines of the PM2, although, yeah, right around the same department. But when you put the whole thing back together, you can see that it's a substantial thing, especially with the swedge sticking up here, the flipper tab sticking out the back. This is not a very small knife, and the PM2 is perhaps not a great comparison because, well, it itself is pretty big. We compare it to like the Wii right here. Oh man, you could hide the Wii inside this guy. So this is a very big knife. Then finally on the bad side, when you're holding this knife in your hand, you're very far away from the blade. It's got a nice sharpening choil and whatnot, but I'm craving some little aloe here to put my finger in to choke up a little bit more. Because as it stands right now, I just feel like I'm pretty far away from the action. I tend to like knives that have a finger choil up close so that my finger's right up inside there. But on this guy, that's not so much a thing. And that kind of bugs me a little bit. So anyways, that's your bad. This knife is really craving a finger choil, the ability to choke up a little bit more on it. It's a very large knife overall for the blade that you're getting, and it's very wide as well. It takes damage and shows the damage fairly easily, which isn't so great. It is absolutely huge in the flipper department. Holy crap. It's loud to open and to close, which is a little unusual, and it's got a little bit of lock stick inside the button lock situation. Let's talk about what's ugly, because sadly, there's some ugly. So on the ugly side, first off, I am not a fan of the pivot being locked down. Having the red Loctite in here is ugly. On this knife, though, with the button lock and the assist, I can almost see them wanting to really discourage disassembly. I can see it being a little bit tricky. Button locks aren't that bad, but still. I don't like the knives that you can't take back apart again. Maybe you could, but you might scratch that. Ugly. Anyways, next thing that is really, really ugly, of the three really, really ugly things here, first off is this damn clip. So the clip itself has three main issues. First off, it's not very tall, so there's not a lot of room for the fabric of your pants anyways. Next thing is that this screw is right in the middle of the area where your pants are supposed to go, so your pants can only really go up this high. Then the third thing is there's just not that much spring to the clip on the hole, and it's right in front of this textured G10 panel here, which means it's just terrible to get into and out of your pants. And then it's canted in such a way that the knife is supposed to hang back like this? Really, Hogue? I mean, this clip is bad. Bad, bad, bad. One of the worst clips I've ever dealt with on a pocket knife. And so I really dislike this clip. But the thing is, it's almost good that the clip doesn't work because this knife is just terrible in the pocket otherwise. It's huge, it's wide, it's got all of these really sharp surfaces. I mean, seriously, look at this little area right here. You got 4 little points right here. You've got your freaking pocket pecker. You got these sharp corners here. The swedge on this guy is actually relatively sharp. I mean, I feel like the entire time this knife is in my pocket, it is just attacking. It's not even just trying to digest the contents of my pocket, but it's actively attacking them. It's stealth bombing them as you're wearing it around. And, you know, it's bad in the pocket. This is a knife that I put in the pocket to carry and realized I'm not going to be able to put anything else in that pocket, and I'm going to hate my life the entire day. I soldiered through, well, about half a day, but I just hate this knife in the pocket so damn much. The third bit of ugly, fourth I suppose, is that I hate this knife in my hand as well. This knife is Hot Spot City, and that kind of makes sense because the entire knife is full of these really pointy angles. Like this right here, this right here. I mean, there are lots of knives that just don't fit in my hand very well, and the overall proportions are actually pretty okay. But the thing is, I feel like it's constantly trying to kill me. I mean, with these sharp little points here, and the edge of the clip, and the flip at that, this whole knife is just trying to digest my hand. I mean, it works okay, I guess, but every damn aspect of this is a hot spot. And if I grip down, it's like I'm trying to freaking hug a porcupine. Maybe other people's hands will be better for it. I've got small hands, but this is just terrible in the hand, and it's terrible in the pocket, and the tip clip is just terrible, and they Loctited the pivot. So right there, that's the ugly, and it's pretty damned ugly. So let's go into the final conclusions. The final conclusion is that, as a reviewer, I like this knife almost as much as I hate this knife. Because at some level, it's really, really neat. They're doing something fundamentally different here. They're making a knife that looks like a stealth bomber, which is kind of interesting. They're using a button lock. They're using an interesting assist with that assist that only really kicks in at the end, which makes it easy to close. They're doing a design that's fundamentally kind of unusual and strange to it. And they're also doing it with great fit and finish. I mean, this freaking edge blows me away, and the rest of the knife is really well made too. So, as a reviewer, I want to love this knife. But the thing is, it's also a really terrible knife, because it's just brutal in the pocket. It's really awful in the hand, and honestly, it feels just way too big for the amount of blade that you're getting. This knife is a little out of control in that way. And so, I mean, the final conclusion is, I salute the Hogue folks, and particularly the designer, Elishewitz. I'm sure I'm butchering his name, but whatever it is, I salute him for doing something crazy here. That's great, and it's new, and it's different, and it's interesting. And I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on Hogue to see what other crazy things they do in the future. And I love that they did different here. But honestly, I just wish that they did differently, because this guy he just doesn't work for me, and I'm not sure that it's going to work for you either. So, there you go. Really, really neat knife. Really, really terrible knife. That's all I can really say. Anyways, hope this was interesting to you, that you, can find it if you set it down on a black surface, and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Well, at least the name is printed there. That's helpful, right? Bye now.